Pranam, good morning. Welcome to live session. And here we go for another wonderful Sunday. And we have a very important topic called the lust. So you know what is lust? We what happens in our mind is 1 minute. Let me do some more settings. Good morning, Pushpraji. So good to have you here. Okay, so let's begin. Let's begin with what lust is. So, you know what happens is whenever you start concentrating on something, your mind wants to leave it. Especially when you are studying something, you want to go deep into something, you're working somewhere, but your mind, starts needs a dopamine. You start thinking very lustful. You suddenly get distracted a lot. So this is very common, with all of us. Why? The reason starts with we have started, this is the psychology of the mind and how we have started training our mind. That is very, very important. People think that there's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with us. It is only that the mind is needs something deeper to understand, to fill that void. That is where we don't understand, what is that which we need. So let us understand, through the psychology. The psychology says that lust is not only the sexual desire, it's a mind's attempt to escape the emptiness. Now, what is emptiness? When you feel lonely, when you feel stressed, when you feel bored, your mind looks for instant pleasure. And what happens? The easiest pleasure is the imagination. What do? You just start imagining something sexual, something which brings you happiness. This is very common even when I started studying Bhagavad Gita. One page, and I was like, no, I need something else. I'm very sleepy. I can't read further. This is, I have, for 2 years, I just lingered on with the book. I picked up the scripture. Then I thought something, no, I need some distraction. I can't sit. I'm so sleepy. Then I again took up something else. And then in that scrolling, the mind goes. And where I was never able to understand even one single page of the scripture when I started reading it. But I wasted 2 years nearly just because of this distraction. That is where I realized that 2 years have passed and I have not done even a single thing from the scripture. The book is with me, but I haven't opened it properly. So that is where I started realizing within my own self what is the problem, why am I so distracted. You know, we when we start looking at a video or we start looking at a reel, our mind gets a dopamine. It brings a temporary pleasure, and that pleasure, our mind becomes addicted to look into everything as a pleasure. So whenever something creative, something attractive comes in a way, you have started scrolling a media. Oh, she's so beautiful, and you just lost in that. You forgot the reason behind opening it. So because we don't train our mind, to be in that zone of understanding the self, we lose the purpose. And the mind is always searching for some kind of a pleasure. So suppose a child sits for studying also, it becomes very, after some time he says, no, I don't want to read, I need some pleasure. The important point to understand here is, what are you looking for? How do you want to fill that emptiness? Mostly when you start asking, some good questions, like you are emotionally alone, you have all the people around, but still you feel that loneliness. And that is where the mind starts imagining going into that sexual desires, having some fantasies about it. So, and the moment, here is a very important point to understand. Shri Krishna says, as soon as there is a desire and you keep thinking about it, it becomes an attachment. The moment it becomes an attachment, it becomes very, very dangerous. Why it becomes so dangerous? Because you are constantly thinking about that, and now you want to extract something from that. Now your constant thinking becomes an attachment, now it becomes a desire, and then that desire leads to destruction of the wisdom. Because this is this is pure mind psychology, and Bhagavad Gita is 100% pure human psychology. It is no different from anything else. So the moment you start, you're sitting empty, you're feeling bored, ask a very intelligent question to yourself: what am I feeling right now? What is the need for me to switch over? Why I want to uh, I don't want to read this, or I don't want to sit here continuously, and my mind is running. Mind is also very intelligent. If only if it starts commanding, only if there is a desire, your body will start moving in that direction. Otherwise, in a sleeping state, your body is not even moving. So that is why it is said to train the brain. Your mind will give you only what you are thinking continuously. But in that attachment, if it is not given a proper direction, it becomes very, very painful. So now understanding is, very, very simple method of how to overcome this. First thing is self awareness. When you are feeling distracted, when you are feeling distracted, you should, don't fight that thought. Just sit and observe. Sit and observe that thought. Have you seen, we used to write something in our notebooks in our school, and then we used to look at it, and teachers telling us this is a sentence, and it has a meaning. So whatever the meaning has been attached to, that is what is provided. Same thing is with your thoughts. When you start observing your thoughts, that is self awareness. Now at this moment, I don't want to do this work. What am I exactly feeling? Am I feeling lonely? Am I feeling bored? Am I feeling, stressful? What exactly am I feeling? When you start, you're not fighting the thought, you're observing the thought. So you are connecting more to yourself, exactly what you need. So you don't need to scroll every time. You can go out for a good walk. You can be in the nature. You can take some deep breaths, and you start connecting with yourself. In the olden era, people were so simple. They were not, always into all these. The TV was not there. Earlier times we had restricted. I remember still in my childhood, my father used to tell me only 9 o'clock is the news time. Then there was some Chitrahar coming at this time, and we were very selective on watching the TV. We were very selective on watching all those things. So life was very simple. We had so many hobbies. We had so many outdoor activities to do. So the mind was always, something curious to learn. I remember I had got a lot of subscriptions. My father bought me a lot of subscriptions of the books. Read this book, read. I had Nandan. I had so many books. I still remember, too, which were actually encouraging me to become more connected to myself, more understanding the self, rather than focusing on the outer world. So there was, things were very simple in the childhood. And what now the media has done is all sorts of information is available. So if you don't know how to filter yourself of what you should take in and what you should not, you will always keep on suffering. So become aware that you are observing your thought, which is the most important point. Then, when you understand that this is boredom, this is emptiness, this is loneliness, now this lust starts dissolving, because now you are understanding your own emotion. Now you are not dragging your mind to just pick up the phone and start, doing something else. Move your body, move yourself out. Yes, you know. Favorite part about the nature. What is your favorite part? Can anybody say what is your favorite part about the nature? Do you love enjoying, listening to the birds and listening to the that emptiness while you're going, and you're just watching? You're only observing. You're not, judging every moment. It's a very beautiful thing. Now your mind, has a purpose. Now your mind has a different purpose. It has a higher purpose rather than just being sitting at one moment and getting into those lustful thoughts, because fantasies are only killers of the mind. The desires are not bad, but how you have to uplift yourself and give your mind a good direction, that is where the real growth happens. So the mind can only be controlled by a lot of practice and a lot of understanding and detachment. Now, most important point is, you should not suppress your this thing. You should not suppress your emotion. You should transform it, because it's an energy. Na? You can transform energy in any way. So you can, when there is a good thought, when there is a lustful thought, you need to transform. You need to understand, this is a lustful thinking and my mind and body is now responding to that. Now I have to, if I keep on giving my mind a good dopamine every time, I am losing my time, and at times my self-worth also, and I lose the confidence also, because every time we start comparing and judging with somebody else. This is better than me, this is better than me. So your mind needs a dopamine to prove yourself somewhere, prove your worth, and that is where you go wrong. That is where you go, the downfall starts. Whereas if we become an observer of our own thought, people are only reflecting what, if I am happy for somebody to grow and they are actually excelling. If I start thinking, अरे I did so much for them, ये तो आगे बढ़ गए, मैं वहीं रह गई, what is the point? Your mind was so good in giving them that what they needed for that growth. You grow, you have yourself grown in that process. We don't realize this, that giving something to others, we have opened our own channels, because the mind was focused on a very good direction. So give yourself a good dopamine, but in a right direction. So the lust promises happiness, but it gives a lot of restlessness. And discipline looks very very difficult, but it gives long term freedom. What Sri Krishna says, from a karta, to become a non doer. How you become a non doer? It is not that you are not doing anything in the world, but your act has purpose. Your mind has purpose to do. So the people who are at the top level, they are very very focused on their own growth. So they are not growing externally, they are first growing internally. They are first overcoming their own lustful desires. They take out disciplined time to work, to study, to meet people. They are not always running after media or doing this and that. They are not even interested in the popularities and all. They are only focused on what, this is what Sri Krishna is building within us when we study the scripture. When your consciousness rises, so your fight is not between your lust and your mind. Your fight is between the lower tendency and the higher consciousness. That is where the when the consciousness rises, the lust falls automatically, because whenever the gyan enters, whenever the wisdom enters, you will automatically take the best decision. So what you have to do, if you really don't if you really want to understand your mind, don't just fight lust alone. Understand yourself by studying the scripture. It's a psychological book. We think it's something very very difficult, we can't understand. No, it's a complete human psychology. As Arjun was totally emotionally drained while standing in the battlefield. Our life itself seems like a battlefield, and we always seem to be a victim. But again, that same knowledge brought him victory, and victory over his mind first. So if he thought about, all the lustful things standing in the middle of the battle, he would have never won, because he was so focused. So whatever came through thought process of Krishna, imagine Shri Krishna and Arjun never had a real talk. It was all mental conversation. So see how much you are balanced within to have that level. And it's not impossible. That is what Krishna is saying. Everybody of us is like an Arjun. Every one of us who's having a battlefield in the mind and who wants that, to come, but to see a different version outside. So the entire fight is to come out of that distraction only when you give yourself a higher consciousness, higher awareness. So study Bhagavad Gita, learn and understand your emotional self, and then only you can overcome. So it's not at all difficult. Only you have to learn to discipline and focus yourself. Every time your mind goes, I don't want this temporary dopamine, I want discipline. So move out. Otherwise, take some deep breaths, do some yoga, do something which moves your body and mind so that you don't feel stuck in that moment and you don't get distracted. So it's all about self awareness. So if you want to study Bhagavad Gita, you are welcome. I am February batch is starting. We have 3 days a week also. In spite of 5 days, there are people who are consistent, but they can't be consistent for a week. So they have asked me to take the sessions 3 days a week, and that's a good evening time. If you wish to join and study Bhagavad Gita with me, please comment in the section. गोपाल जी, I'll tell you the short summary in Hindi later. Short summary in Hindi सिर्फ इतना सा है, चलो मैं आपको यहाँ बोल ही देती हूँ, और भी अगर कोई हिंदी ऑडियंस होगी तो दे कैन लिसन. शॉर्ट बात यह है कि जब हम बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्ट्रैक्शन में आते हैं तो डिस्ट्रैक्शन क्या करती है हमारे लिए, हमारे अंदर एक डोपामीन नाम का केमिकल होता है. जैसे ही हम किसी अट्रैक्टिव चीज़ को देखते हैं, वो चीज़ हमें प्लेजर दे रही है, तो हम बार बार उस चीज़ की तरफ जाते हैं, लेकिन जो रास्ता बना हुआ था उसको छोड़ देते हैं. तो भगवान कृष्ण क्या बोलते हैं, माइंड ही एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो आपको उठा सकती है या गिरा सकती है. तो आप अपने माइंड पे उस डोपामीन को हैंडल करो. बार बार अगर बार बार आप डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो रहे हो तो आप अपने आप से पूछो, क्या मैं खाली बैठा हूँ, क्या मेरा मन खाली है, क्या मुझे इमोशनली मैं बोर हो रहा हूँ, मेरे साथ क्या ऐसा चल रहा है जो मुझे उस वॉइड को किसी की चीज़ से भरना है. जब आप अपने साथ से ऐसे इंटेलिजेंट क्वेश्चंस पूछना शुरू करोगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली आपका माइंड जो है वो एक हायर कॉन्शियसनेस पे आ जाएगा. यू विल नॉट कीप ऑन लिंगरिंग कि मैं हर थोड़ी देर बाद टीवी देख लूँ या हर थोड़ी देर बाद कुछ ऐसा देखूँ. उसके बदले आपका माइंड आपको आंसर करेगा अपनी एम्प्टीनेस और उस वॉइड को फिल करने का एक सही तरीके से. और दैट इज़ द फर्स्ट सेल्फ अवेयरनेस जो हम अपने अंदर बिल्ड करते हैं. तो अपने अंदर सेल्फ अवेयरनेस को बिल्ड करें, ज़्यादा डिस्ट्रैक्शंस में नहीं आए. डिस्ट्रैक्शन आपका टाइम बहुत वेस्ट कर देती है. जितना ज्ञान आपके अंदर उतरेगा उतना आपके अंदर हायर कॉन्शियसनेस आएगी, उतना आप सेल्फ अवेयर होते जाओगे, उतना आप डिस्ट्रैक्ट कम फील करोगे. और वही चीज़ हमारे माइंड को चाहिए. हम जो चाहें वो हम पा सकते हैं, लेकिन अगर डिज़ायर ही गलत है, अगर प्योरिटी नहीं है, अगर इंटेंशंस में प्योरिटी नहीं है, तो वही चीज़ अटैचमेंट बन जाती है. वही चीज़ अटैचमेंट बन के एक डिज़ायर बनती है और वही चीज़ एक डिस्ट्रक्शन का काम करती है. और अगर वही चीज़ को आप सही एंगल दे दो, एनर्जी है ना, आप उसको लस्ट को ट्रांसफॉर्म करो अपने ज्ञान के अंदर कि मैं अपने लिए बेस्ट क्या करूं, मैं और आगे अपने लाइफ का पर्पस ढूंढूं, मैं कुछ और लोगों की सेवा करूं, है ना. जब हम एक अच्छा मार्ग दे रहे हैं अपने आप को, और वो होता कब है, जब हम ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं, हम डिस्ट्रैक्शंस में नहीं जाते हैं. और डिसिप्लिन लाना मुश्किल है, लेकिन डिसिप्लिन आपको लॉन्ग टर्म हैप्पीनेस देता है. लस्ट आपको थोड़ी देर का प्लेजर रखता है. और ये बहुत कॉमन है, मेरे को अक्सर लोग मिलते हैं और वो एक ही बात बोल रहे होते हैं कि मैम मैं बहुत जल्दी डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो जाता हूँ. तो वो डिस्ट्रैक्शन से आपको कोई नहीं निकाल सकता, आपने खुद को खुद ही निकालना है. आप ही अपने सेवियर हो, आप ही अपने आप को बचा सकते हो. तो सेल्फ अवेयरनेस में आओ, अपने साथ कुछ इंटेलिजेंट क्वेश्चंस पूछो और अपने साथ बार बार ये बात लेकर आओ कि मुझे एक्चुअली क्या चीज़ है, ये जो एम्प्टीनेस मुझे फील हो रही है जिसकी वजह से मुझे कोई ना कोई चाहिए, है ना, मेरी को डिपेंडेंसी बन गई है कभी किसी पे, वो कैसे ख़त्म होगी. जब हम खुद से इंटेलिजेंट क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं तो माइंड को हम एक अलग लेवल का डोपामीन दे रहे हैं. ये लॉन्ग टर्म डोपामीन है. ये आपको जो लॉन्ग टर्म में हैप्पीनेस देगा, जो आपको अंदर से समझ में आएगा ना, वो फुलफिलमेंट जब आपके अंदर खुद से आने लगेगी, जब आपको खुद से समझ में आने का कि मुझे बाहर कोई प्लेजर नहीं चाहिए, देर इज़ नथिंग आउटसाइड ऑफ मी, हर चीज़, मैं सोर्स माइंड हूँ, भगवान मेरे अंदर है, मुझे के अंदर से ही सब चीज़ आ रही है, तो आपका पूरा का पूरा नज़रिया बदल जाएगा, यानी आप ही ट्रांसफॉर्म हो जाएंगे। सो मेरे लिए मेरी तरफ से आज के लिए इतना ही। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग। एनीबडी हैज़ अ क्वेश्चन यू कैन आस्क मी, एंड दैट इज़ ऑल फॉर दिस संडे। आई होप you become more focused, study Bhagavad Gita. Don't try to control your mind, master your mind. Observe, become an observer and master your mind. So thank you so much for joining. Gopalji, you have a lot of questions. Okay, I gave you a Hindi summary. Thank you so much. Have a lovely Sunday.